assembly operations, future plans, and his experience with Ford 2000. With that, I am very pleased to introduce Mr. Arthur James.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay, or I need to bend over? Anybody hear? It's always a challenge when you give a presentation about Ford Motor Company, and especially a facility as big as Wayne, stamping and assembly plants, to know where to start, because obviously there's a lot of different areas you could start, and they all end up covering just a tremendous amount of different subjects. I thought today we'd start with describing the facility, and then we get into the organizational structure. Of course, as I'm sure all of you know, we built Escorts. The Escort was the third best-selling car in the United States last year. We sold 337,000, and of those 337,000, 312,191 was made right down the street here at the Wayne Assembly Plant. So we're very proud of the success of the Escort. The plant was actually established, the assembly plant, in 1952. The stamping plant and the new body shop was started in 1990. The property is 214 acres, and the plant size is over 3.2 million square feet. We have a main building, which we call the old assembly plant. We have a new stamping and body facility. We have a paint kitchen. We have a powerhouse, and we have a wastewater treatment facility. We currently employ a total of 3,400 hourly employees and 318 salaried employees. Last year, the annual payroll was $196 million. The annual payroll taxes was $58 million. And the annual property taxes was $5.9 million. We build three different types of Escorts. We have a 3-door Escort with a lift gate on it. We have what we call a 5-door Escort. A lot of people would call it 4-door. We call it 5-door because it has a lift gate instead of a trunk on the back. And we built a wagon. We currently run, we net 74 jobs per hour. We're currently running 2 8-hour shifts. We've been on straight time this year. On straight time, we normally build approximately 290,000 units. The plant, when it was opened in 1952, started off building Lincolns and Mercury products. 1957, they started building Edsels. Then they went to Fords in 1959. They started building the Escort in 1980, the original Escort. From a tooling standpoint, we have 267 robots in the body shop. We have 3 robots in final, 17 robots that we use in the paint facility, for a total of 287 robots currently. We have over $2.5 million worth of different types of tooling, power tools and small tools that we keep in inventory and use on a regular basis. We have a very active environmental and energy management team. Wayne generates over 140 pounds of cardboard per vehicle produced. The cardboard and the wood is sorted and recycled. For 1994, we recycled 9.9 million pounds of cardboard, 188,000 wooden pallets, 8,000 cubic yards of shredded wood and paper for our regenerative fuel sources, 800 cubic yards of white paper, 79,000 pounds of extruded plastic packaging and dunnage. We took the powerhouse boiler fuel source in 1991 and converted it over from coal to methane using the dump site down the street. Now that's where we get all our methane from. That provides an annual savings of $500,000 a year. And of course, it reduced the air contamination with the elimination of coal burners. The next section I'd like to go through, now that I've described basically the facility, is the organization structure. As plant manager, I have 12 departments reporting to me. We have a stamping plant, as I mentioned earlier. We have a body department. paint department, final department, quality control department, an ER department. We have a controller's office. We have a manufacturing, engineering, planning department, and then we have an engineering department that focuses strictly on the product, which is now called the Plant Vehicle Team. And then team this is a new team that we just started this year, which goes along with Ford 2000. This team focuses strictly on the product, future changes for the product, trying to improve the quality of the product and also take costs out of the product. The new Ford 2000 organization, which is a re-engineering of Ford Motor Company, which started this past year, I'm going to go into more detail on in just a little while. We spent an enormous amount of our time working on what we call a quality operating system. And primarily, we get indicators 4 or 5 different ways from our customers. We have new vehicle quality studies that we get 4 times a year. We have warranty information that we get monthly. We have special customer inspection studies that go on about twice a year. We have dealer liaison people out in the field that feed back to us on a continuous basis. We have over 318 teams in the plant that represent those 3,400 employees. These teams all interface with each other as cross-functional teams and focus primarily on quality, although there's a lot of other teams I'll mention in a minute also. So what we do when we get customer data, we take it back to our pre-delivery department, which is the final department that re-inspects the entire vehicle and functions it out before we ship it to the dealers. And we set up surveillances and inspections to try to make sure that whatever customer concerns that we're notified of, that we get them contained immediately in the pre-delivery department. Then we feed it back to the main departments where they reevaluate the process and the engineering associated with the concern, redesign and reprocess whatever they have to do to make sure that those concerns go away. That takes up a good part of our day, focusing on the product. Some of the other things that the teams cover is we have 11 variability reduction teams that work on, like, one team will work on water leaks, one team will work on like wind noise, one on NVH, one on sheet metal concerns, one on door fits, one on radios, electronics, and things like that. Now these are people that are working on these teams part-time in addition to having a full-time job to try to make continuous improvement. The teams have actually improved about 15% a year the quality of the product, in addition to making about a 6% a year improvement on the productivity of the plant. So they're very successful teams, and very active teams. There are 25 specific teams that are working specifically on quality, and that comes under the championship of the Quality Control Department, although those teams are made up of members of all organizations. The Controller's Office has 20 different teams that are working on things such as service parts, making sure we get the service parts delivered efficiently to the dealers, productivity teams, waste minimization teams, project review teams. We have a lot of various cost savings projects and product projects that we have to put in. Like currently we've knocked out 2 sides of the building and we're expanding the body shop for the new Escort that's going to be introduced next spring that has a code name CT120. So there's always a lot of project work going on. So the teams are working on the current product as well as the future products. Like this past week, I'd say I spent about half my time working on the Escort that's going to come after the CT120 Escort, which is called the CW170 code name. So we spend a lot of our time on the current and the future. And I guess if you would try to split that up, it's about 50-50. The Employee Relations Department has 32 various teams that Keith Kleinsmith, Keith, would you stand up? He's my Employee Relations Manager. So he champions and tries to support 32 various teams in his department. They're again made up of people from all over the organization, and they have numerous safety committees, which he's a chairman of the main safety committee. We have ergonomics committees. We have salary personnel planning committees. We have things like multiple emergency response teams that we use in case of an accident or any type of an emergency. And by the way, I'd like to thank the City of Wayne for all the support you've given us over the years when we do have an emergency. The response time's been just outstanding, and we really do appreciate that. We now have formed a new team called Violent in the Workplace Team Committee. So to try to reduce violence. And there's some tapes that just came out telling us how to identify when people are under too much stress and how to handle people if we think they're about to blow. The stamping department has 52 various teams, and they work on things like surface finish. Of course, they all work on safety and quality and productivity and those kind of things. So, and then they all have environmental teams. The body department has 22 various teams. Paint department has 15 teams, and they work on mostly things like application, prep, waste minimization, FTPM, which is a Ford Total Preventive Maintenance System that tries to improve your throughput on a continuous basis. We have a final department consisting of 1,065 employees, and it's made up of 26 different teams. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a manufacturing engineering department that we call our planning department that spends just about all their time working on the future. There's 100 employees in that department, and they're made up of 32 different teams. They spend a lot of their time working on new model launches. Then we used to have what we call a Q-Press team. It was made up of engineers from various facets of Ford Motor Company, like the electronics division and the powertrain division, and the plants that supply us parts from those divisions. They used to be called the quality press team, and they worked with us constantly on trying to improve the quality coming into the plant. However, this year that's been changed because the team has been expanded to include not only quality but also cost, and they track all engineering changes, which goes along with Ford 2000 re-engineering of the company, which I'd like to just take a brief minute to try to give you a little overview of what that is. It's made up under several strategies. One is to give more empowerment to the people. The idea is to reduce the layers in Ford Motor Company. Anytime you have a company as big as Ford Motor Company, there's a lot of layers of management and bureaucracy that if you're not careful, it gets out of hand, and then your communication system gets very ineffective. So one of the purposes of that is to have less layers in the company and a flatter organization with more people reporting. In order to make that work, you got to empower the people. So one of the principles is to empower the people, give them more latitude to make decisions without having to have approval from somebody above them. Process leadership, the leading edge is moving rapidly in this area of explosive change in technology, and we need to be out front in that area. So we're going to put a lot more emphasis on processes, on how to improve processes so we can stay competitive. Obviously, one of the goals is to achieve worldwide product excellence. We want to be the low-cost producer in the world. We want to lead as a corporate citizen. And we want to lead in customer satisfaction. And a new focus in Ford Motor Company versus the Ford Motor Company of the 1980s is we want to grow the business. In the late 1979s, when we were going through our last major recession, Ford Motor Company at that point in time decided they were not going to try to grow the business. They were going to try to hang on to what they had and just be profitable, because there was so much competition in the world that they thought it really not worth trying to expand the business. It's just too many players, too much overcapacity. In fact, that's one of the major strategical differences between Ford Motor Company and General Motors back in 1979 and 1980. When Ford decided that there was too much overcapacity, we're going to try to hang on to what we got. We're going to try to be efficient. We're going to try to be the top quality producer and not grow the business, but just do what we got and do it the best we can do it. General Motors decided to go the other way. They decided they were going to grow the business, take on a larger market share, and consequently, it appears looking back that Ford made the right decision. Well, actually, during that time frame, it's kind of ironical. Ford Motor Company grew 5% during that period when we really weren't attempting to grow our market share. But our market share actually improved 5% by just focus on doing what we're doing and doing it right. Now that we're in the Ford 2000, we're looking at the future. Ford 2000 basically is a combination of Ford of Europe and Ford of North America. It's taken those two companies and making them one under one president, who's Ed Hagenlocker. And by doing that, in the long run, it's going to streamline the organizations. So instead of having all these multiple organizations at the top of Ford Motor Company, there'd be basically 5 organizations they call vehicle centers, and each vehicle center would be over certain product lines. For example, the Escort is in vehicle center number 1, and my design center for Escorts is over in Europe. So the people that I report to directly are in Europe. So my immediate boss, his name is Bill Aslan, he's called a program operations manager. He lives in Cologne, Germany, and his boss is in Cologne, Germany. So that's the small car vehicle center. So all small cars that are designed in Ford Motor Company will come out of that vehicle center in Europe. Now, the other 4 vehicle centers are, like we have a F-Series vehicle center, and you have large truck vehicle center, and you have front-wheel drive, large car vehicle center, and then you have a rear-wheel drive vehicle center. Those other 4 are all over here in Dearborn. So 4 of them are being Dearborn, and they have total responsibility for the quality and the cost and the success of those products, and the 5th one's in Europe. Of course, Ford on this side of the ocean is a lot bigger than it is on that side of the ocean, but it's still pretty big over there. The vehicle center that I'm in, we estimate by the year 2000 will be responsible for 70% of the vehicles built for Motor Company. Because obviously in Europe and Asia and those places, they use small cars, a lot more small cars than what we use in the United States. So it's going to be a challenging future for Ford Motor Company, the way it's being organized. So the way things are set up, it's under what's called instead of the old organization structure that all of us were taught when we were in school, which was kind of like a military structure if you look at the way the military is organized. The new organizational structure in Ford Motor Company is called a matrix management organization. So it looks like a square. So the way that works is the vehicle center is at the top. Now I just told you how I report up to that vehicle center in Germany, but I also have a vehicle operations people that are located in Dearborn. So basically I report to 2 people. So all the plant managers and executives in Ford Motor Company basically in a matrix organization have at least 2 bosses, sometimes 3. So this is just going into effect, and obviously we all have a lot to learn to make this thing work. But the whole focus of it is that nobody can live in a chimney nowadays. It's the world's changing too fast, and to keep up with all the changes and to do them efficiently, you need to be in what's called a matrix organization. You got to be able to work for more than one person, and you got to report a lot more than just one person. And as you all know, Alex Trotman is the chairman of Ford Motor Company, and he's an awful courageous individual to take a company as big as Ford Motor Company, which by the way was the most profitable automobile company in the whole world last year. And to totally re-engineer that company takes quite a bit of guts, to say the least. But that's the way we're heading as far as the company is concerned. And I just wanted to give you a brief overview about the plant. The reason I wanted to hit on teens is because that's basically the way we're going versus the old military style of management that we had in the past. And I don't know how many of you all work in a team environment, but it's quite a bit more complicated than the old military style where you just tell somebody to do something and they're expected to do it. So it's a lot more challenging, and it's a lot more work because you have to have a lot more meetings, and it takes a tremendous amount of time. But I think the results are a lot better. We've been into it at Wayne for quite a while now as a plant, and it takes a while to see the results, but the results have really started showing up the last few years. And for any of you that have gone through Wayne the last few years, I'm sure you've noticed the improvements on inside the plant as well as outside the plant. So we got like for example the decorations outside the plant this year. I don't know how many of y'all noticed our decorations this year. Good, I appreciate that. I'll take that back to the organization. But to use that as an example, I was walking down the aisle one day, and I got an employee relations hourly coordinator, called an EI coordinator, and she said, "Hey boss, what are we going to do about Christmas decorations this year?" And I said, "I don't know. What are we going to do?" She said, "Well, if you'll give me some help, we'll get something up there you'll be proud of." And I said, "Fine." So I said, "I'll go talk to my ME manager and make sure he supports you, and you put a committee together and go after it." I said, "You did a real good job last year. If you can match that, that'd be outstanding." So, and that was it. I mean, as plant manager, that's all I did. I just said, "Hey, go to it." So I was on the phone talking to somebody one day over in Europe, and here comes this escort riding by the front of my window with reindeer horns on it. And I saw it, and I thought, I thought it was somebody coming in from out in the street playing a joke or something. I thought, man, I wonder who in the hell's driving something like that. So then next thing I know, it turned up and drove up on the lawn, And then I realized, hey, this is something special going on here. But I had to go to, when I got off the phone, I had to go to another meeting down the hall, so I didn't get to ask anybody anything. So I go to this next meeting down the hall, and there's also a window looking out on the lawn, and now I see this big, Santa Claus sled coming down, and then the maintenance skilled trade UAW representative, his name's Rich Moore, and this is an hourly guy. He comes into the meeting and says, "Hey boss, do you see that reindeer sled?" And I said, "Well, yeah, how can I miss it? It's almost as big as the front of the plant." He said, "Man, you're going to be proud of what we do this year." And that's the way it works. I mean, it's called empowerment, and we really are starting to practice it. And it's scary, I'll tell you right now, it's scary, but it does work. It does. So far, it's worked anyway. And with that, I'll open it up for questions, because I really don't know what it is you'd like for me to talk about, so I just wanted to give you an overview of how we try to run the business. So with that, anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, go right ahead.
I just have a statement. You don't have to know who I am. I've been around here for a long time, and Ford is an absolute asset to the city of Lincoln.
Thank you.
We're proud of what you've done, and even the new expansion, just the way that the public can see your facility from the outside. A few extra dollars on the landscaping, a few extra dollars for a different than a plain block wall, a few extra dollars on your display during the holidays. All those things say much, much more about you and your efforts and your organization than any PR person's going to turn out. You're welcome, and you're an asset to Wayne.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I assure you, we'll take that back and share it with everybody at the Wayne Assembly Plant. One other note on that, which is kind of funny, is as we started working on that at the Wayne Stamping and Assembly Plant, the plant next door, which John Corrigan represents. John, you want to stand up? It's a Michigan truck plant. And Frank Foley is the plant manager at Michigan Truck, and he used to work for me at Twin Cities, and then he worked for me at Wayne for a while as my assistant plant manager. So we got a little competition going, and it's unbelievable. You've all heard what competition does. It's unbelievable. I mean, we would put up a few decorations, and then they'd put up a few more. And we'd put up a few more, and they'd put up a few more. And I thought, God, if Christmas don't hurry up and get here, I don't know what we're going to have. But it turned out to be a lot of fun. It really was. And the same thing with the landscaping. We started putting landscaping in a few years ago, and my wife's a real proponent of landscape, and she spends every free minute when the weather's right outside working in the yards. We was driving into the plant one weekend, and she says, "Honey, you got to do something with this landscaping. This place looks really drabby out here." So I said, "Okay." So we start working on the landscaping at Wayne, and next thing I know, Frank next door, he's working on the landscaping. So now we're going at it with landscaping, But it is good and healthy competition, and it does provide us with a lot of pleasure. And the hourly people appreciate it too. I mean, that's what's, they really do. When you improve the working environment, both outside and inside the plant, the hourly workforce is just amazing how it affects them. We've all read books on how it works, and sometimes we're doubting Thomases, and sometimes we say, yeah, if only we could do it. But it's nice when you're in a position where you can do those kind of things. And we're like an independent business in Ford Motor Company. We have to generate our own revenue and our own profits to do these things with. So Ford downtown, they don't say a whole lot to you when it comes to landscaping and that type of stuff. But fortunately, the plant's really on a high note, and we're having a lot of fun decorating it. And today I was in the lobby, and some guys were showing me how the lobby's getting dressed up, and they said, hey, take a look at the lobby, you know. So it is a pleasure, and I really appreciate the feedback, so thank you very much. Any other questions?
What's the status of public playing tours?
Well, the way we're set up, we're having them on a request basis, and we really are having tours. Well, we have tours every day, to be honest with you. We don't publicize it, but we have them every day on request. So, like, I guess we have at least one busload of people coming through every day. Today I asked Keith and Frank Freeman, I said, what's this busload? And it was a busload of Koreans coming over from, I don't know, Geo Motors, I guess it was, wasn't it, Frank? We don't, sometimes we use retirees to help us and so forth. So I'm a great believer in tours. I haven't been able to publicize it because I really don't have the resources to support it if I were to publicize it. But we do honor special requests. We have schools coming through on a continuous basis, and I just turn them over to Frank. And Frank, you want to get up and say how you handle that, just briefly, because he grabs a lot of Arley people that volunteer to help him.
Sure, I've got probably 8 different people in my training department, all hourly, that will either work together or individually in groups on special requests. I've got 2 in particular that really get a kick out of doing the tour. Some of you may have met them, Ray Crane, one of them. We do the tours. It takes about 2 hours. I have to pull them away from some other things, so we try to tie it into our business or the community in some respect. You know, far distant places, we try to discourage those, but the local schools, the community businesses, joint ventures with Ford Motor Company that they may be looking at with the Koreans, we try to take through. We do them on a periodic basis. I'd say almost every week we're involved with some other departments, like the Controller's Office and our Quality Office will also do some tours as well, depending on the reports.
So, to answer the question, basically, if anyone in here wants to tour, you're welcome, okay? Obviously, anyone in Wayne or in our community, we definitely want to be glad to show you the place. We're very proud of it. But we haven't gone public because, I mean, we'd be inundated. We did that for a little while. We got a little extra funds from the sales department, and we went public, and they gave us some vans. We drove people around to the stamping plant, let them walk through both plants, and we got inundated. And, we asked for some more funds, and they said, hey, we don't really have them. So we do them on a local basis, and we just absorb it with the people at the offices and so forth. So we just split it up. So like ER takes some of it, the Controller's Office takes some, and Quality Control Office. Sometimes I take some, and we just split it up, make it part of our everyday. But anyone in here, any of y'all that want to bring people through, we'd be honored to take you through the place. And the employees really appreciate it. They really, I think it makes the Arley workforce more appreciative of their jobs when other people come through and look at them, because sometimes you can't see the trees for the forest, and you know, you come to work and you work and go home, but when other people come in and walk through and they see how this thing goes together, it's pretty amazing. And next month I will have been in business 33 years, and when I take a tour and take people with me, it even amazes me, and I've been in this thing a long time. So I mean, you know, when you stand back and look at it, including myself, you just wonder how it all goes together sometimes. But it does, and it does pretty good. And that's why we focus on the people part of the business, because obviously there's no one person that can know what's going on in a place that big. It's kind of like a small town, really. But it's a lot of satisfaction when you see one that's humming and it's running real good. So, any other questions? Yeah, John.
All right, I'd be remiss if I didn't turn back the compliment to you. You made the comment about how quickly we respond to public safety needs at the plant. Earlier in your remarks, you made the comment about how many dollars you pay in taxes each year, and how large your payroll is, and how many employees you have in the community, both living here and living in the area. And following up what Bill said a minute ago about what a contribution you guys make to Wayne, you really do. And we appreciate it very much. I know the City Council does. You're such a large part of the tax base of this community and the employment base of the community that having someone like yourself and Frank Foley that are approachable, and your staff as well. We routinely talk with John Corrigan and Frank Freeman. That's really helpful to the city. It hasn't always been that way in terms of the approachability. And under your leadership and Frank Foley's leadership, that's been just 180 degrees different. And it makes our job a lot easier. We want to help you. We want to get out there as fast as we can. We want to answer your questions as best we can. And I know we're going to have our times when we don't maybe understand each other, see eye to eye, but that's so few and far between in the last 5-10 years. Really a much nicer working environment.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we really do work hard on communications, and obviously it benefits all of us if we can keep communications open. I got one story I heard yesterday at the plant managers meeting that I'd like to share with you that kind of reinforces what you can do together when the community and the plant works together. You all heard about the shooting at Sheldon Road plant out in Plymouth. And we were talking about that at plant managers meeting yesterday down in Dearborn. And I was sharing it with Keith Kleinsmith, my ER manager, this morning. And we was talking about the emergency response teams. And what Sheldon Road did in November, one of the emergency response teams said, hey, you know, if we would ever have a shooting or anything like that, we're not sure how we respond to this thing. And they were talking about it because of what happened to the Roods, you know, not too long before that. So they called in the local police department, and they had a meeting together, and they set up a hotline. So, to make a long story short, what happened was when this shooting took place out there, I guess it was a security guard. I'm not sure. I don't have all the details, but I asked Keith to check this out. Maybe we can learn something from this. But they picked up this hotline, and the police got there and heard the last shot. That's how fast they got there. I mean, and I just heard that yesterday. I mean, I was shocked. But I mean, you know, that thing went down fast. And we don't have much security in these plants, obviously. We don't have any weapons or anything. But for someone to just because they communicated together and set up a good communication like we're doing here and like we've done the past few years, when the first police car arrived at the plant, they heard the last shot. I mean, that's amazing. And that's just because this team took it on themselves and said, hey, you know, something could happen, and we need to know how to respond and how to get hold of the local force. And it's just like that. Just unbelievable. So I guess, you know, we've all heard it. You know, together we can accomplish just about anything we want to accomplish. So I want to thank you again for all your support. And you know, we've had several emergencies at the plant since I've been there, and I've been there 4 years, and I'm just amazed at the way you all have responded. And I really do appreciate it. It's a good feeling to know in today's environment that you got friends and support like we've got here at Wayne. It's good from a personal standpoint as well as from a professional standpoint. So on behalf of the whole Wayne team, I'd like to thank you very much.